SHSAT exam code T10, multiple choice questions. Question 63 to 114, directions. Select the best answer from the choices given by carefully solving each problem. Bubble the letter of your answer on the answer sheet. If you need to erase, please erase thoroughly. Question 63. In a certain class, 3 out of 24 are in student organizations. What is the ratio of students in student organizations to students not in student organizations? Well, here we can make a chart. There are 3 in organizations and 21 that are not in organizations for a total of 24 students. Since we're comparing the first 2 columns in a student club or not, that's 3 to 21, which reduces to 1 to 7. The correct answer was F, 1/7, written in modern fraction form. Question 64. A coordinate not shown has pentagon ABCDE with vertices A, 30, B, 40, C, 47, D, 07, and E, 05. What is its area? Well, what we can do here is we can space out in quadrant 1 with a quick sketch that there's a rectangle from the origin out to point C with x of 4 units or base of 4 units and a height of 7 based on C is 4, 7. The pentagon ABCDE is not the full rectangle. So we have to subtract that triangle down below. Well, that triangle is formed by coordinates at A, which is at 30, and E, which is at 05, which you can see in the picture of the sketch that I drew here. So that means that the base of this triangle is 3 units and the height up to E from 0, 0 is 5 units. So the triangle is a half of 3 times 5. A half of 15 is 7.5. So to get the area of the pentagon, we take 28 units, which is the full rectangle, minus 7.5, and we get 20.5 units for the area of the pentagon. The correct answer was D. Question number 65. The price of a newspaper rises from 5 cents to 15 cents. What's the percent increase in price? Well, think of it this way. 100% of the newspaper costs is 5 cents. That means that 200% would be 10 cents if we double it. The newspaper rose from 5 cents to 15 cents, and the difference, is 15 minus 5, which is 10 cents difference. Go back to our percentage chart, and 10 cents difference would be 200% that it increased. The correct answer was H. Question 66. If the square root of n over 3 is an even integer, which of the following could be the value of n? Well, take each number, place it on top of the fraction, and take the square root. For A, the square root of 25 is 5 over 3. Well, that's not a whole number, so it's not an integer. Also, the square root of 49 is 7, but 7/3 is also not an integer. It's 2 1/3. It's not a whole number, a positive whole number. For C, we get the square root of 81, which is 9 over 3. Well, that's 3. That's a whole number, but it's not an even integer. And at D, the square root of 144 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4, which is an even integer. And we have a winner. One possible value for n is D, 144. Question 67. If x to the a times x to the b is 1 and x is not 1, then a plus b equals, well, the rule for exponents that we went over in class was x to the a plus times x to the b is x to the a plus b. The other rule that you needed to know was that anything to the 0 power is 1. So that means that x to the a plus b equals x to the 0. Well, the bases are the same, so we have to set the exponents equal as an equation as well. That means a plus b equals 0, and we're done. Correct answer was G. Whatever values we pick for a and b, they have to sum to 0. Question 68, majors of a junior class. In the graph above, represents the majors of the entire junior class. What is the ratio of juniors majoring in physical sciences to all the juniors? Well, the first major is health professionals, then liberal arts, physical sciences, and then other. Well, looking at the chart, health professionals is halfway between 300 and 400 or 350. Liberal arts is towering at 500 students enrolled with that major. Physical sciences is 450, and other declared majors is 200. So your major is your concentration of study, like your favorite subject in school when you're in college. So by junior year, you should declare what your concentration of study is. And here, they wanted us to compare the students that picked physical sciences to the entire population, 450 to 1500, which reduces to 45 to 150, which means that it's in a ratio of 3 to 10. So for every 3 students majoring in physical sciences, there are 10 students in the total population. 3 to 10 was the correct ratio. Question 69. If 13 plus A equals 25 plus B, then B minus A equals, well, the first thing we do is subtract 25 from both sides. And we have negative 12 plus A equals B. Since we want B minus A as an expression, we subtract A from both sides. And we have negative 12 equals B minus A. And the correct answer was E. Negative 12. Question 70. Greg's weekly salary is $70 less than Jones, which is $50 more than Sue's. If Sue earns $280 per week, how much does Greg earn per week? Well, we're given Sue here in this gray box as $280. If you read back in the sentence, we are told that Joan makes $50 more. So add 50 to that, and you get Joan makes $330. Again, going backwards through the text, Greg is 70 less than Joan. We now know that Joan earns $330. Subtract 70, and we get Greg's salary is $260. So interesting read. You have to read it backwards in terms of sentence by sentence to get Greg's salary, which was $260. Question 71. 2 rules are given to you. Square bracket X means that you take the number X, square it, add 1, and divide by 2. Rule number 2, round parentheses Y, means that you take triple Y and divide it by 2. Given the above definitions for all real integers X and Y, if round 2 is M, then square M, square braces M is equal to which of the following? First, we have to go to rule number 2 for the first step and plug in the number 2. Then we get 3 times 2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. Take that number 3 and bring it to the square rule, number 1. Here, put that in place. Then we have 3 squared is 9, plus 1 is 10, divided by 2 maps to 5. So the 2 brings us to 3 in rule 2, and then the 3 brings us to 5 in rule 1. Correct answer was H, 5. Question 72, if Sherman earns $2,000 for his first 40 hours of work in a week, and then he's paid 50% more than his regular hourly rate for any additional hours, how many hours must he work to make $2,300 in a week? Well, to figure out his hourly rate, take 2,000 divided by 40, and that means that Sherman earns $50 per hour. That means that if he works more than 40 hours, you should pay him more, and he's paid $75 per hour for any overtime. That's 50% more. Half of 50 is 25, plus 25 is $75 per hour. Well, we know that for the first 40 hours, if he worked all 40 hours, he would earn 2,000. But he earned 2,300, so he must have done some extra overtime. So certainly we can eliminate A and B. We're finding total hours. Well, 40 plus some number of hours that earns 300 is 40 plus N, but we know that that's 4 hours because 300 divided by 75 is 4, meaning that he did 40 hours at regular pay plus 4 hours at overtime pay for a grand total of 40 plus 4 or 44 hours to earn $2,300 And the correct answer was D. Question 73. Chris has twice as many baseball cards as Lee. If Chris gives Lee 10 of his baseball cards, he will have half as many baseball cards as Lee. How many baseball cards do Chris and Lee have together? Well, for this problem, start with the before, where Chris has double a stack of baseball cards than Lee. After he gives away 10 of his cards, he will have 2L minus 10. But Lee, who's receiving the cards, will have L plus 10 after the transaction. So we're told that after he gives him the 10 cards, he has half of Lee's. So if we double Chris's side, meaning 2 times 2L minus 10, that will equal the full amount that Lee has, L plus 10. Distributing 4L minus 20 equals L plus 10. Add 20 to both sides. 4L equals L plus 30. Subtract 1L. We have 3L equals 30. Dividing by 3, L equals 10. That means that when they started with their baseball cards, Lee had 10 baseball cards and Chris had 20 baseball cards. Together, if they were to pool their cards together, they have 30 baseball cards total. And the correct answer was G. Question 74. The figure above shows an example of a 4-digit identification code used by a certain bank for its customers. If the code consists of the numbers 0 through 9, but cannot start with a 0 or use any digit more than once, what's the difference between the largest and smallest possible codes? Well, here I wrote down the list of possible numbers for each of the 4 places, 0 to 9. To make the largest code, since numbers can't repeat, I'll start with the largest number in the set, 9. And then choose the next largest number, 8, the next largest number, 7, and then the next largest number, 6. That's the largest 4-digit code, 9,876. The smallest code has a restriction in that it can't start with a 0. So the smallest number it can start with is 1. Then I can choose 0 for the second number for the hundreds. And then since I already used 1, I'll end with 2 and then 3. The smallest number I can create with these 4 digits is 1,023. So the difference between the largest possible code and the smallest possible code is 9,876 minus 1,023, which is a difference of 8,853. The correct answer was D. Question 75. Robert purchases $2,000 worth of U.S. savings bonds. If the bonds are sold only in $50 and $100 denominations, which of the following cannot be the number of U.S. savings bonds that Robert purchased? Well, if you write down the formula, $50 at some amount plus $100 at B times equals $2,000 total invested in bonds. For choice E, it's possible to have 20 bonds if he buys only with the $100 bond level. So if he buys 20 of those, he'll have exactly $2,000 worth of savings bonds. He just buys none of the $50 bonds. For F, if he buys 20 of the $50 bonds, that's $1,000 worth of $50 bonds, and then 10 of the $100 bonds, that's another 1,000. That's a total of 2,000 as well. For choice G, if he buys only the $50 bonds, but he buys 40 of them, that's $2,000 worth of $50 bonds. And then he buys no other bonds at the $100 level. So again, 40 bond purchases is possible. Lastly, H is not possible because if he has 50 bonds, even if he buys the smallest denomination, then he would have $2,500 worth of bonds. So it's not possible, since if those 50 bonds were of a $100 level, they would be even worth more. They would be worth even more. So say he bought 50 bonds at the $100 level, that's $5,000 worth of bonds. So H is impossible because if he purchases 50 of the bonds, even if he purchases the smallest amount, he'll certainly have more than $2,000 worth of US savings bonds. Question 76. A music shelf contains 12 jazz albums, 16 world music albums, 24 country music albums, and some pop music albums. If the chances of picking one pop music album at random on the shelf is 1 out of 3, how many pop music albums are there in the shelf? Well, based on the given information, jazz is 12, world 16, and country, and then pop is the unknown amount of music albums. So there's 52 albums of music plus X. Well, we know that the ratio is 1 out of 3. So we set up the proportion X for the pop music out of the total amount, 52 albums plus X, is equal to the ratio 1 over 3. When we set up a proportion, we then cross multiply the diagonals. They have to be equal. So 3x equals 1 times 52 plus x. So 3x equals 52 plus x. Subtracting x, we get 2x equals 52, and dividing by 2, x is 26 albums. So the correct answer was D. There are 26 pop albums on the music shelf. Question 77. It reads, bus X travels 40 miles per hour for 2 hours. Bus Y travels 60 miles per hour for 90 minutes. What's the difference in miles between the number of miles traveled by bus X and the number of miles traveled by bus Y? Well, we can use the formula rate times time equals distance. The first bus, X, was at 48 miles per hour for 2 hours, so it must have traveled 80 miles down the road. Bus Y was traveling at 60 miles per hour for 90 minutes, which is 1.5 hours, which are coded as 1.5. So then 60 times 1.5 is 90 miles total. The difference between bus Y and bus X would then be 90 minus 80, or 10 miles. The correct answer was E, 10. Question number 78. Given A, B, and C, where 0 is less than A is less than B is less than C, which of the following cannot be true? The correct answer was A, which we can do by plug-in. Here, if I plug in 0, A, B, and C with A as 1, B as 2, and C as 3, we know that for choice A, 1 plus 3 is less than 2 is false. B, 1 times 2 is less than 3 is true. So we can eliminate B. But choice C says that 1 plus 2 is less than 3. Well, that's not true because they're equal. And 1 times 3 is less than 2. So what we need to do if we plug in is readjust. So you have to think about it for a moment. And one way of doing it is making the numbers spread out a little bit more. For example, A doesn't have to be an integer. So A could be like 1/10, a very small amount. B is 2 and C is 10. So I change the values of the number to see what's possible. Choice A is still false because 10.1 would then be less than 2. That's false. You add A and C. Choice C, though, would be A plus B, or 2.1 is less than 10, is now true. And for choice D, because I adjusted the numbers, we'll have A times C, which will be 1, is less than 2. So that's true as well. So we have counterexamples where they're all true. And so A is the only one that's false. If this still doesn't make sense, think about this. We know that A is less than B is less than C. So A is less than B. Well, whatever A is, it'll always be less than B. But C is always greater than B. So if we add C to the left side, it's even greater than what C is. So the arrow must face the other way. In fact, here we have it here. C is greater than B. So the other direction must be true. C is a larger amount than B. If we add even more to that, because A is positive, then this will certainly always be greater than B. So that's why, based on just the logic of the inequality, C is always greater than B. So a number even bigger than C will also be greater than B. The correct answer is A. Question 79. The average score of 10 players was 6.5. One player's score was dropped, changing the mean of the remaining scores to 6. What score was dropped? Well, first we can compute the total amount. Based on 10 players, it would be 65 points total score. But now that there are 9 players in the average, if we do 9 times the average 6, that means that that's 54 total points. So the one person that was dropped from the scorekeeper's log would be 65 minus 54, or a score of 11. The correct answer was H. A score of 11 was dropped from the list. Question number 80. A times B times A plus B times A minus B equals which of the following? Well, here we have 3 separate factors. And again, by plugging in for A and B reasonable numbers, here I chose A is 5 and B is 2, because then the difference here in the third factor will be positive. Here, let's see how it works. Here we have A times B, which is 10, times 5 plus 2, which is 7, times 5 minus 2, which is 3. So multiplying those 3 numbers, we have 10 times 21, or 210. So we're looking for an expression that's equivalent when we plug in for these placeholders A and B. It'll give us a formula that's equivalent. Is it A cubed plus B cubed? No, because that's 125 plus 8. That's not even 200. Is it B, 125 minus 8? No, that's not even 200 either. Is it C, which is A squared, or 25 times 2 is 50 minus 20? No, that's not even 100. So by elimination, it has to be D, and sure enough, it is. A cubed is 5 times 5 times 5 is 125, times 2 is 250, minus 5 times 8, or 40. 250 minus 40 is precisely 210. The correct answer is D. So notice that we don't have to multiply the variables together using FOIL, like from the lesson, and then scaling it up again by A and B with exponents. By plugging in, it's a much easier problem to work with. Just make sure that you choose numbers that are maybe single digit, and again with A just slightly larger than B in a formula such as this with a difference term. Question number 81. Triangle ABC has sides 6, 8, and 10. Another triangle, X, Y, and Z, has an hypotenuse of 25, similar to ABC. What's the ratio of the area of ABC to the area of triangle XYZ? Well, here we know that by the Pythagorean theorem, 6 squared plus 8 squared is 10 squared. So triangle ABC is also a right triangle. So the hypotenuse of this triangle is 10, which means that the larger triangle that's similar is 2.5 times as large. 6 times 2 is 12, plus a half of 6 is 15. 8 times 2 is 16, plus a half is 20. Therefore, the larger triangle has sides 15, 20, and 25. As we can see here, the area formula for ABC will be a half the base times the height, or a half of 48, or 24. For the larger triangle, we have a half of the base, 15 times 20, a half of 300, which is 150. Dividing by 6, we have 4 to 25, and the correct answer was F, 4 to 25. Question 82. Based on the number line above, which of the following represents a negative quantity? Well, here, knowing which numbers are positive and which are negative is almost completely sufficient to solve this problem. Let's see how this works. Looking at 0, to the left of 0 are P and Q. So wherever these are placed, P and Q are both negative. To the right of 0 are R, S, and T. So that means that R, S, and T are all positive numbers. Negative Q plus P would be a negative number close to 1, but then adding a negative number that's larger than 1. So since there's a larger negative number present, the sum will be negative. P is beyond negative 2. For choice B, P times Q, well, they're both negative. They're from the negative set. So when we multiply them, they'll become a positive number. So we can eliminate B. For choice C, we have S times P. A positive times a negative is negative, divided by Q. Q is negative. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. And finally, because negative sides cancel. Finally, for D, R is positive, and we're dividing that by P times Q. Well, a negative times a negative is a positive. So we're really doing a positive in the numerator divided by a positive product, which will be positive. So B, C, and D will all be positive when simplified. The correct answer is A. A will result in a negative quantity, negative Q plus P. Question 83. In February, the value of stock A was $26 per share, and the value of stock B was $24.80 per share. If stock A increases in value by 0.45 each month, while stock B increases in value by 0.75 each month, in what month of the same year will the values of the two stocks be the same? Well, here we want stock A to equal stock B. Stock A can be represented as $26 plus 45 cents every month, M being the number of months. Stock B in the paragraph was at $24.80, but it's also increasing at a value of 75 cents every month. So we want to set these formulas equal. We do so by, we solve them, by subtracting 24.8 from both sides. 26 minus 24.8 will be 1.2. These will cancel each other out. And then for the variable term, we're doing 0.45 minus 0.45 is 0. But on the right greater side, that will be 0.3 months. So now we've eliminated here, and we have 1.2 equals 0.3 M. Multiply both sides by 10 to move the decimal to the right one place. Then we have 12 equals 3M. Much easier. Divide by 3, and 4 is the number of months from February. So after February comes March, April, May, June is 4 months later. The correct answer was H. Question 84. Nancy has 5 golden nuggets. The largest nugget is worth $50. The second nugget is 0.80% of the first nugget. The third nugget is 80% of the second nugget. Value, and so on. There are 5 nuggets altogether. How much are all 5 nuggets worth together? Well, 50 times 0.8 is 5 times 8 is 40. Move the decimal, $40. $40 times 0.8 is $32, because 4 times 8 is 32. Now, 32 times 8 is a little tricky, but that's times 2 3 times, and then move the decimal. So 32, 64, 128, 256, and move the decimal 1 to the left, $25.60. Now that we have 2560, again multiplying by 2 3 times, we get 512, 1024, 2048. Move the decimal 1 to the left from 204.8, and we'll get 20.48. So this is right because each gold nugget is worth 80%, so it should be depreciating. This is a decay in value. So the last one is the least valuable. Each time multiplying by 80%. If you multiply by 100%, it would be the same amount, right? 80% is 0.8, so it should be decreasing in value. Adding them together, 50 plus 40 is 90. 32 is just 32, but this is 45, oops, got to carry 46.08. Then 90 plus 32 is 112, 152, 158. 162, 168.08, and the correct answer is C. Those 5 golden stones, those golden nuggets, are worth $168.08. That was question 84. Question 85. Rod Stewart and Tebow won a lottery of $1,040. Wow. After using the jackpot to pay for a celebration lunch, which cost $30 per person, and to donate $50 to charity, they agreed to share the rest of the money in a 3-4-5 ratio among Rod, Stewart, and Tebow, respectively. How much more money did Tebow receive than Stewart? Well, here we have $1,040 minus the 3 lunches and the charity. So minus 140 is $900 left over. They're in a ratio. So 3x plus 4x plus 5x equals $900, meaning 12x is 900. Divide by 3, and then 4x is 300. Divide by 2. 2x is 150. Divide by 2 again, and x is $75. Looking at the share ratios, Rod is triple that, or 225. Stu is 4 times that, or 300. And Tebow is 5 times 75, or 375. But the question is here, how much more did Tebow receive than Stuart? 5x minus 4x is 1x, which is $75, which is confirmed here. 375 minus 300 is $75. The correct answer was that. Question number 86. Which of the following inequalities represents the number m less than or equal to twice a number n, which is then less than 2? So by grouping those phrases like so, here, and I use parentheses, it's a double inequality. M less than or equal to is that symbol. Twice means 2n. Less than is left facing arrow, 2. Looking through the answer choices, the correct answer is A. M is less than or equal to 2n is less than 2. Question 86. Question 87. Iron weighs 7,870 kilograms per cubic meter. What will be the weight of a solid iron bar? 2 meters long, 5 meters wide, and 3 meters thick. Well, it's a rectangular prism, this iron bar. So 2 times 5 times 3 is 30 cubic meters. Then multiplying that by 7,870 kilograms will be 7870 times 30. To make the math easier without a calculator, I rewrote 30 as 3 times 10. I wrote this block 7870 as 787 times 10. Then commuting the terms, I have 3 times 787 times 100. Which is that 10 times 10. Now I'm down to 3 factors. 3 distributed into 787. Well, 3 times 700 is 2100. 3 times 8 tens is 240. 3 times 7 is 21 times 100. Adding the 3 together from my distribution of the 3, we have 2,361 times 100. Put 2 zeros on the end of that 2361. Because of the times 100, and we have 236,100 kilograms, a massive weight. And the correct answer was G, 236,100 kilograms. Question 88. Which of the following inequalities correctly, a jar, down here in the red box, a jar is only red candies and green candies. If the probability of randomly choosing a red candy is initially 1/3. After 15 green candies are removed from the jar, the probability of randomly choosing a red candy improves to 3/4. How many green candies were originally in the jar? Well, red is n, green is 2n, and the total was therefore 3n. Because that's the ratio 1 to 3. Then removing 15 green candies from the jar means removing 15 also from the total. Well, we're told that after we do that, the red candies are in a ratio of 3 to 4. Well, n is still the number of red candies because we didn't remove any of them. But the total number of candies is 3n minus 15 now. And the new ratio is 3 to 4. So if we cross multiply, we have 4n equals 3 times 3n minus 15. Distributing, we have 4n equals 9n minus 45. Subtract 4n and add 45, and we have 45 equals 5n. Dividing by 5, 9 equals n. So we have to be very careful because the question says not how many n candies or red candies. A is a trick answer. They wanted to know the number of green candies. So make sure that you double 9, and the correct answer is C. 18 green candies were originally in the jar before the 15 were removed. I hope this video was useful to you in your preparation for the SHSAT exam. Thank you for watching my video.